Hello everyone. Good afternoon. Okay, so I'm sure you all know that this is a session for the examination NIFT, and today we'll be covering the topic verbal ability, what in general you call as English. Before I start, I welcome you all on behalf of Creative Edge. I am Khushbu Jain, and today we'll be going through NIFT specific English session. Okay, so before I start, let's go through and talk about what kind of questions should we expect when it comes to NIFT as an exam. In NIFT, if I talk about English, the VA part, they people ask you, that is a pattern, at least 4 to 5 passages, which will have somewhere around 25 to 30 questions, at least 25 questions. So one thing which you should prepare for before you appear for your NIFT exam, it has to be passages. Passages, these are the same passages which you might have solved in your school. What that time we used to call it unseen passages, but obviously there is a difference of the difficulty level or maybe the way they ask question. Now, the second kind or variety of questions which they ask you, it is broadly the ones in which you need to have good knowledge of vocabulary. Now, when I say vocabulary, it includes the synonyms, antonyms, spellings, the correct spelling, and the relationship between them, right? So, good word of vocabulary will help you score good when it comes to NIFT exam. Apart from that, they ask you questions of reasoning, right? And this has been a pattern. So today's agenda for today's session is to cover these three topics in detail. So I'll start with passages, then I'll move on towards words, which will include synonym, antonym, and idioms and phrases and whatever, and then the reasoning section, right? So in the next 50-60 odd minutes, we'll be covering these parts. Without much ado, I believe I should start with the session now. And then before I start with the passages, as you can see on the screen, we'll first talk about a few strategies which you should always follow when you solve passages, right? So if I can ask you, as soon as you get the passage, what should be done first? Should I directly start reading the passage, or should I first go through the questions first? What should be the strategy? What should be done? I believe every one of you would agree that we should go through the questions first because it will save a lot of time. See, I'm sure you people understand that you're appearing for competitive exams. Now, competitive exams, it's not the answering the correct, question correct is not the only thing. Timing matters a lot. You need to have control on the time. You should know that this question should take not more than 15 seconds or 30 seconds to solve. Now, if you directly start reading the passage and then if you read the question, believe me, you are killing your time. And somewhere you have, already missed out somewhere in the race of the exam. So what you should do is you should first go through the questions, read the question, know what are they trying to ask you, and then jump to the passage and then figure it out what are they trying to say. Okay, so I'll start with yes, Lakshmi, we'll start with the questions first. We should actually start with the question. As you can see on the screen, there is a passage first. I believe we should start with one passage. That's a really good one. You have to read between the lines, you have to understand. So now with this passage, I want you people to understand two things. One, understand the question. Second, you should be able to distinguish between the options. I'm sure many of you get confused sometimes that, say, out of 4 options, I'm sure these two are not the answer, but then out of the other two, 50-50 you feel like it can be the answer or the other one. This confusion has to be avoided, right? And the third thing is how to read and understand the passage. These are the three agenda for the passages, right? Chaliye. So I start with the very first question here. Obviously, as I have told you that we should go through the questions first. Let's have a look at the questions. The first question here is what? The passage highlights the difference between. Now, as soon as I read the question, I'm very clear that the passage talks about differentiation between two things. Matlab, I should be very, confident about one thing. The entire passage has a structure where the author is trying to draw a parallel between two things. Now, I need to figure out that he is trying to mark the difference between what two particular things, right? The next question is what? Jargon here in the context of the passage means what? So, I'm sure in the passage there is one word jargon. Now, I need to tell that what does it mean. The third is the purpose of literature according to the passage. Now, the purpose means what? The aim. Purpose means what? The agenda. For an example, why are we here for? So we are here for what? To the purpose is to go through the a mock of NIFT, that how does it happen, so that we can perform better in the exam. So this is the purpose. So he's asking us that what is the purpose of literature according to the passage. The next question is language of science. Now I do have one more question for you. If the passage has, see, there are 8 questions here, do you suggest or what do you prefer to do? Should I go through all the questions in one go? Should I read all the questions, or do you feel no? If there are 8, I should read as many questions as my mind can handle, because I should not be repeating to, avoid the time killing. So I believe if there are 8 questions, go through first 3 one. Don't read all the questions in one go, because जितना हम याद रख सकते हैं उतना ही हम पढ़ें. That is a great idea. So the passage highlights the difference between is the question here, right? Now, I'm sure you can see the passage now here. The passage is there in front of you. I request you all to read first few lines and then look at the options and then try and tell me what should be the answer in the chat box. You have got 1 minute. Read it and then tell me what according to you should be the answer. Even if you're not getting what they are actually trying to say, I request you to at least go through the passage. Go through the entire passage. We'll try and understand the entire one, right? If you want me to read every line, I'll do that for you. But make sure that for at least once you go through the entire passage. The starting is not clearly visible. Okay. Is it clearly visible now? Let me read it for you. Okay, I'll read it for you. The first few lines says that the first few lines, they actually say that as a medium of literary expression, the common language is inadequate. If we talk about literary expressions, common language, they are saying, is not enough. Like the men of letters, the scientist finds it necessary to give a purer sense to the words of the tribe. But the purity of scientific language is not same as the purity of the literary language. Can I say they have tried to use this synonym here? Here the question was, the passage highlights the difference between what? So if there is, see, if there are two things which are different, can I say that it is not same, it is one and the same thing? The second line of the passage says that, but the purity of scientific language is not the same as the purity of literary language. What does it mean? What does it mean? It means what? Simply that they are trying to draw the parallel between these two things. So in one go, if I need to go through, if I go through all the options one, tell me what answer do you see that this should be the answer? What can be the answer? The passage highlights the difference between the language of science and literature, the language of the tribe and that of a civilized man, jargon and the language of the common man, or the central purpose of the science and literature. What is he trying to differentiate in between the two? Okay, Shreya is saying A. Shreya, good. Because why? It is clearly mentioned that they are saying that common language. Common language means what? A layman's language in which we talk, right? So, in common language is not sufficient when it comes to explaining science or literature. Now, the person is trying to say, the author is trying to say, so I'm going to tell you that how the scientific language is different from the language of literature. I'm sure you are getting my point. If I have to give you one example, I'll clearly say that we all understand that when it comes to science, we have definite definition to everything, right? Science cannot afford to have multiple meanings of one statement or one phrase, right? But in literature, what happens is one can have different interpretation of the same thing, which actually is not possible in the science. And that's why if even you read it beyond the first three lines, they are saying what? First few lines, this the aim of science is to say they are talking about the language in which science is written, and the last few lines are talking about what? The way in which literature is written, and that's why the answer has to be option A. Great. Now let's understand what does jargon mean according to the passage, right? So I know that the word was like it first appeared in the passage in the second line of the second paragraph. So now let's read it, simultaneously and try to figure out what should be the answer. Tell me what according to you is the jargon here. He says that in science, scientist tries to do what? He tries to say one thing at a time, one meaning at one time, and to say it unambiguously. Ambiguous, I'm sure you understand. Ambiguous is something which is not having a particular. Okay, Shreya is saying C. Okay, we'll come to that. I'll not tell you the answer. I'll just discuss it with you, and then you only tell me what should be the answer, right? So I was explaining the word ambiguous. If something is ambiguous, it means that it is not perfect, this is not defined, there's no proper shape to it. Science may everything has a perfect shape. Like if I have to take one example, the definition of velocity is same, and it is same for every one of us. We cannot have our own interpretation. Let's say for me velocity means this, and for somebody else velocity means this cannot happen, right? So they are saying unambiguous hoti hai, matlab perfect hoti hai. Now to achieve this, the scientist simplifies it and jargonizes it. Now what do we mean by jargon here is he uses vocabulary and syntax of a common speech in such a way that each phrase is susceptible to only one interpretation, and the vocabulary and syntax of the common speech are too imprecise for his purpose. He invented a new technical language or jargon. What should be the answer? Shreya is saying C. I can see from where Shreya this answer is coming. So let me read it further. उसने clear कहा है that when scientist tries to explain something, he needs words, specific words, which should have only one meaning at a time. So उसने कहा to do that, they have this technical language जिसको हम कहते हैं jargon. Now read it further. Specially designed to express limited meaning which he is professionally concerned with. Shreya, now I'm saying two statements and now you tell me, is there any difference between the two? From here, what do you understand? I have taken the example of velocity. Let me take that example again. So velocity is a jargon of physics. Physics mein there is a term velocity. Now, do you want to say that velocity in itself is it has a limited meaning, or do you want to say that velocity in itself is not sufficient to express the meaning? Velocity in itself, see, there is a difference. वो कहता है jargon means what? I'm sure A and D के साथ कोई नहीं जा रहा because there is no mention of difficulty or mathematics in the entire passage, so we can easily eliminate option A and D. Now two are very close, that is B and D. Now here jargon is what? A technical language or a language with limited meaning. Is jargon in itself a language with a limited meaning, or jargon we use to express limited meaning? Shreya, now I'm sure I can clear the 2 points that these are two different things. I repeat my words. One, jargon has in itself a limited meaning. The second is jargon, they are not sufficient to express a meaning. What's the point? The point is they in itself has a limited meaning. They are not limited, right, to a certain thing. ऐसा नहीं है कि jargons are not sufficient to define a meaning. And that's why the answer has to be what? Technical language. Jargon means what? A technical language. Like understand velocity. Velocity in itself is a complete definition. Like speed में जब आप direction को add कर लेंगे, it becomes velocity. So that is what? A complete meaning in itself. So it is not insufficient, and that's why answer has to be technical language. Now tell me, what is the purpose of literature according to the passage? Now purpose of literature, the answer comes from last few lines. Read those lines and tell me what should be the answer. Purpose of literature. Why do people write literature is the question. Why do poets, authors, writers, they write? देखिए, we can see the word purpose here. So I think we'll directly jump to last 3 lines to read what is written over there. So see, what they have written is, when the literary artist undertakes to give a pure sense to the words of his tribe, he does so with the express purpose of creating language which is capable of. So the purpose is to what? Create a language which conveys not single meaning of a particular science but multiple significance of human experiences. If I have to give one example, like just say of the scientific language, I have given the example of velocity. Just imagine we do have heard this share and shairis and songs and all. Don't you feel that these shero shairi, they have different interpretation to everyone, right? A two line couplet can make somebody feel emotional, somebody to it can make somebody laugh, it can make somebody cry, because we all have different meaning of the same thing. So he's saying what? Literature ka purpose is what? To convey not the single meaning but multiple significances. Options are there in front of your eyes. Tell me what should be answer to question number 3. The purpose of literature is what? What is the purpose of the literature? Is it to express views privately as well as publicly? Or is it to report multifarious facets of lives, your facts of life, your view life from various planes? Good, Riddhima. Exactly. The answer has to be report multifarious facts of life, because literature is like seeing the same thing with different points of view, and that's why it has to be a Shreya. It has to be B. Now, after, I'm sure after this much of discussion, you are clear that the language of science has to be what? लैंग्वेज कैसी होनी चाहिए? Can the language of science afford to be unclear? No, it has to be clear, right? And that's where Ridhima, Shreya, answer to question number 3 is not correct. Ambiguous means, see, I'll tell you this word once more. uh, Ideas are ambiguous, thoughts are ambiguous, it doesn't have a perfect shape, you cannot touch them, right? This is what is ambiguous means. तो हमने जितना समझा अभी तक साइंस की लैंग्वेज, तो इट हैज टू बी डेफिनेट, you cannot have multiple meaning of one word, and that's why it has to be what science की लैंग्वेज होती है, crisp, clear. Himanshu is saying verbose. I believe मुझे ना, I should first tell you the meaning of the words here and then you should answer, right? Okay, so precise matlab, I'm sure you understand. Precise matlab to the point, crisp, clear, right? That is precise. Now, the next is verbose. Verbose matlab, it is an adjective for someone who speaks a lot. इनफैक्ट यूजेस मोर वर्ड्स दैन इट इज रिक्वायर्ड. ऐसे कुछ लोग होते हैं ना लाइफ में, जो है ना दो दो सेंटेंस की बात को बोलने के लिए दे यूज 5 सेंटेंसेस, उनको वर्बोज बोलते हैं, वाचाल, बहुत बोलने वाले लोग. एम्बिगियस इज नॉट क्लियर. तो लैंग्वेज ऑफ साइंस कैसी है? इज इट नॉट क्लियर? नो, इट इज क्लियर. सो अनएम्बिगियस होना चाहिए था, बट दैट इज नॉट द ऑप्शन. वर्बोज मतलब साइंस बहुत ज्यादा बोलता है क्या? नो, इट कैन नॉट बी द आंसर. सो द आंसर हैज टू बी प्रिसाइज, crisp, clear, to the point. That is the language of science. The answer has to be option A. The answer of question number 4, the language of science, is precise, right? Now, tell me what according to the passage is true. Author को क्या लगता है? Language of science pure है, language of literature pure है, or is he saying that language of science and of literature in its own way makes for pure expression? इसके लिए आई एम श्योर आपने एक बार अगर ये पढ़ा है. टेल मी, व्हेन यू रीड द इंटायर पैसेज, डू यू फील समवेयर दैट द ऑथर इज ट्राइंग टू टेक स्टैंड और फेवर ऑफ वन लैंग्वेज? ऐसा उसने कहीं किया है क्या, दैट ही इज फोकसिंग ऑन वन एंड ही इज सेइंग दैट सी दिस इज बेटर देन दिस? क्या उसने कहीं भी ऐसा स्टैंड लिया है? नो, उसने कहीं भी स्टैंड नहीं लिया है. एंड दैट्स व्हाई ही इज नॉट कंपेयरिंग कि कौन सी अच्छी है, साइंटिफिक लैंग्वेज इज बेटर देन द लिटरेचर और लिटरेचर, और ऐसा उसने नहीं किया. एंड दैट्स व्हाई द आंसर हैज टू बी व्हाट? ऑप्शन नंबर सी. The answer has to be option C. The language of science and that of literature in its each in its own way makes for pure expression. अनएम्बिगियस का मीनिंग अब आप बताइए यहाँ से क्या होना चाहिए? फिफ्थ का आंसर इज सी, बिल्कुल ठीक है. नाउ द आंसर टू क्वेश्चन नंबर 6, unambiguous, the word is clear to you. Tell me, it can be replaced with, मतलब they are asking you the synonym. What should be the synonym to this question? Synonym मतलब पर्यायवाची पूछा है, बताइए unambiguous का पर्याय क्या होगा? I'll tell you the meaning of the 4 options here, and you should remember these words because anyway, a good knowledge of vocabulary will help you at every walks of your life, right? And that's why you should read it. So what does vague means? Vague means what? A vague idea is an ambiguous idea. Ambiguous जो हमने word पढ़ा उसका synonym होगा vague. Something which is not planned, no solid planning, vague idea है ऐसा. Dubious is doubtful. So something which is doubtful is dubious, dubiously. Explicit मतलब clear बोलना without any hidden meaning. That is what is this explicit. And then the last one is amiable. Amiable, amicable, friendly. These all are synonyms and it means friendly. So amiable means what? Somebody who is friendly. So obviously the answer here has to be what? The no, amiable here Riddhima means friendly in nature. जैसे you can use this adjective for any one of your friends who you feel are like, in Hindi if I can use a few words, मिलनसार जिसको आप कहते हैं. So amiably is equal to friendly, right? And that's why unambiguous मतलब very clear to the point. So answer has to be explicitly, right? Now susceptible means something, someone who can be easily influenced, easily उसको प्रभावित किया जा सकता है, that is susceptible. And seize, see there is this word seize, siege and seize. The 3 C's are there. They all have different meaning. SEIZE, SEIGE and CEAS. All these words, they are three different words. Let me tell you the meaning of every word here. SEIZE, seize करना मतलब, आई एम श्योर आपने सुना होगा, प्रॉपर्टी सीज कर दी गई है, तो प्रॉपर्टी सीज कर दी गई तो जब्त करने वाला SEIZE होता है, राइट. SEIGE का मतलब होता है, इट हैज गॉट अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग मीनिंग. आई एम श्योर यू ऑल रिमेंबर 26/11 अटैक, 26/11 मुंबई टेरर अटैक, आपको याद होगा. What happened there was the Taj Hotel was under, under the, what should I say, the command of the terrorists. So what happened was, black commandos were called, Indian forces were called, and they did what? They surrounded the entire premises. उसको उन्होंने घेराबंदी किया, एंड विद फोर्स उन्होंने उसका कंट्रोल अपने हाथ में ले लिया. दिस इज नोन एज CESEIGE, सीज. सीज मतलब किसी जगह का कंट्रोल फोर्सफुली अपने हाथ में लेना. और तीसरा जो यहाँ पे पूछा गया है आपसे, CESE, व्हाट डज इट मीन? आई एम श्योर यू हैव हर्ड कि LOC पे, इंडिया पाक बॉर्डर पे सीज फायर है. तो सीज फायर है मतलब, या हम ऐसे न्यूज में सुनते हैं कि पाकिस्तान ने सीज फायर को वॉयलेट किया, सीज फायर को वॉयलेट करा. तो सीज मतलब रोकना, फायर मतलब फायरिंग. तो सीज फायर है मतलब एक अग्रीमेंट है कि ना आप फायर करेंगे ना हम फायर करेंगे, राइट. तो सीज का मतलब होता है किसी चीज को रोकना. सो ऑब्वियसली अगर किसी चीज को रोकना है. अच्छा, एक और चीज, even if you do not know the meaning of the word, now there is one more trick by which you can answer. That is what? See the other option. Can I say continue and start, they are same? So if two options are same, how can that be an answer? Right? तो वो दोनों ही equally correct answer हो जाते हैं. That's why only one which is negative here, that is desist, बाकी सारे ही positive हैं, and that's why answer to question number 8 has to be A. बिल्कुल ठीक है, it is A, right? चलिए, now I move forward to not a passage first. I believe we should talk about a few idioms and phrases, and then we'll move on to words again. They clearly ask you, directly ask you that tell us the meaning of this expression, right? Sometimes they give you the entire statement, which becomes easy for you sometimes to answer, because see, even if I do not know the meaning, the with the help of the example I can answer the question. But at times they do not give you that. The way you look at the question on the screen, this is the way they ask you, right? So उन्होंने directly पूछा है, choose the best option which expresses the meaning of the idiom and phrase. The idiom or the phrase here is what? The first one is at large. What do you mean by at large? Have you heard this phrase before? पहले कहीं ये कहावत या ये मुहावरा सुना है? If you have not, let me give you one example and then you try to tell me the answer. Ridhima is saying कि it is very far. Okay. Let me give you an example first and then you tell me what should be the answer, right? So, example is, a few days back, there was a news here in the Indore region that we do have a zoo here, that is Kamla Nehru Park. वहां से एक तेंदुआ भाग गया, a leopard, it ran away. तो the news was the next day, 3 दिन के बाद भी इनफैक्ट यही न्यूज था, that the leopard is still at large. The leopard is still at large. Try to figure it out. What should it mean now? Very good. The new step here, I do not know your name. Okay, new step. Yes, if the leopard is still at, excuse me, at large, obviously it doesn't mean that he is very famous, not famous, or far. It means the leopard is still free. Now, free here means what? Yeah, at large exactly means what? इसका मतलब होता है someone who is supposed to be behind the bars, और जिसको जेल में होना चाहिए, जिसको किसी केज में होना चाहिए, किसी किसी बंदिश में होना चाहिए, अगर वो व्यक्ति या वो एनिमल वहां से भाग गया है, इट हैज रन अवे एंड स्टिल नॉट कैप्चर्ड अगेन, फिर से उसको पकड़ा नहीं गया है, इसको कहा जाता है एट लार्ज. सो इफ आई से दैट देयर आर मेनी क्रिमिनल्स हु आर स्टिल एट लार्ज, इट मीन्स व्हाट? द क्रिमिनल इज स्टिल नॉट बिहाइंड द बार्स, ही इज स्टिल आउट. दैट इज व्हाट इज at large means. So answer has to be option C. Now tell me, to have one's heart in one's boots, what does it mean? Make a guess. It's like a feeling when you feel like your heart has, come down to your boots. ऐसा लग रहा है पैरों में आपका दिल आ गया है. So it has to be what? When do you feel so? It is when you feel deeply depressed, when you feel down in the dumps, when you feel like nothing is good, you feel like a pessimist. आपको एक नकारात्मक सोच की तरह, you feel like, to have one's heart in one's boots means to be deeply depressed. Now, tell me tell me this one, 29th one first, right? 27th you are saying C. It is not to be frightened, right? Riddhima C. Because if it can be frightened, then why can't it be angry? So if there are two options which are similar, na, understand it cannot be the right answer, right? Two similar cannot be the right one. Now, tell me the answer to question number 29, which says that stew in one's own juice. If you know the meaning of stew, you'll be able to answer it. Stew in one's own juice. Make a guess. What do you feel? Stew in own juice. Matlab, to enjoy, to be indulged. Okay, I tell you the answer. Stew in one's own juice. It means when you suffer because of your own actions. You do something and that goes wrong, and because of your own action you suffer. So it means like, stew in on juice. Now, before I move ahead, those who are preparing for NIFT exam, I tell you, please, at least, I know the exam is super soon now, it's on already first, you have your exam on 6th, right? So what you should do is read, go through as many uh, idioms and phrases as you can. जितना हो सके पढ़िए. Why? Simple, because the more you know, the more it helps you to eliminate at least eliminate the option that, see, this cannot be the answer, so this has to be answer, and that's why read as many words as you can. Now, I move to the synonyms. They directly ask you, choose the word which is similar in meaning of the given word. Now, you should first obviously know the meaning of the word, then only you'll be able to answer. So, if I have to choose out of these one, I believe obnoxious is a word which you already know. If you know, tell me what should be answer to question number 35. It says that tell us the synonym of paryayavachi of obnoxious. What do you mean by obnoxious? What do you mean by obnoxious? Okay, I tell you the meaning of obnoxious. Let's say somebody cracks a joke and I do not like it. I get angry. मैं आपको hint दे रही हूँ, right? So that you can guess कि क्या हो सकता है. So what happens is you crack a joke. I do not like it. I become angry. और मैंने गुस्से में आपको बोला है, don't ever dare to crack such obnoxious joke in front of me. सोच के देखिए कैसा वाला फीलिंग है, पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव. Obnoxious is substandard, positive or negative. I'm sure with my example you can understand it is something which is negative in meaning, and that's why obviously pleasant is a positive word, delightful is a positive word. So the only option left here which is negative is offensive. So something offensive is जो आपको बुरा फील करवाए, ऑफेंड फील करवाए, तो दैट इज ऑब्नॉर्मल. When someone gets offended by something, that is right, Riddhima. This is the correct answer. What do you mean by fiasco? What do you mean by fiasco? 35th का आंसर डी नहीं होगा, because D means agreeable, तो it means कि okay, you can agree on something, but obnoxious means something which can offend you, right? चल, fiasco is जिसको आप कहते हैं बहुत बड़ी सी हार. Fiasco, yes, Shreya, it is a negative word. So the point is fiasco पे I have jumped. So fiasco means बहुत बड़ी सी हार. So if it is a बहुत बड़ी सी हार, what does it mean? If it is a har, so obviously if you are losing something, achievement is the opposite. Peculiar means something peculiar is a peculiar habit, किसी की stereotypical habit. Victory is obviously the opposite, so it has to be debacle. See, this is a common word, debacle. If I can give you one example, I'll say what when elections happen, और ऐसा होता है कई बार, one party registers landslide victory. Landslide victory, I'm sure आप समझते हैं, landslide victory मतलब बहुत बड़ी जीत, right? दूसरी ओर कोई ऐसा पार्टी है जो एक भी सीट नहीं जीत पाया, सो ये हार छोटी मोटी हार नहीं, ये बड़ी हार है। अब न्यूज़पेपर में ऐसा आपको न्यूज में ऐसा आपको वर्ड शायद सुनाई देगा दैट इट वाज अ डिबैकल ऑन देयर पार्ट। तो डिबैकल था मतलब छोटी मोटी हार नहीं, बहुत बड़ी। इट्स जस्ट एज मतलब आई डोंट वांट यू टू इवन फील इट, बट देन जस्ट इमेजिन इट्स वर्ल्ड कप and there is this World Cup going on and the team of Scotland defeats India, that too by a margin of 10 wickets. That is a really, I believe that is a real horror story to most of us. But then, अगर ऐसा होता है, if it happens, then इंडिया की जो हार है उसको हम डिबैकल बोलेंगे, बहुत बड़ी हार, right? So fiasco means debacle. Connoisseur or connoisseur, the 33rd point, which is here 33rd. Connoisseur or connoisseur, you can pronounce it the way you want, दोनों ही correct pronunciation है. Connoisseur, connoisseur is somebody who is an expert in something. It's like a maestro. Maestro is who someone who is a master. So connoisseur of fashion, connoisseur of food, मतलब somebody who has a great टेस्ट एंड सेंस ऑफ अ पर्टिकुलर थिंग। कोई किसी चीज में अगर एक्सपर्ट है तो उस एक्सपर्ट को आप कॉनॉइशर कहते हैं, दैट्स व्हाई द आंसर हैज टू बी व्हाट, क्वेश्चन नंबर 33, द आंसर हैज टू बी एक्सपर्ट। दिस वन मोर गुड वर्ड देयर, that is novice. Who is a novice or a naive, naive? Novice or a naive or a knave is somebody जिसको हम बोलते हैं an intern, somebody who has just learned something and is not an expert. early stage में जब कोई होता है उसको आप novice कहते हैं, उसको opposite हो जाएगा expert, जो सालों से उस चीज को कर रहा है, ठीक है? So this way they ask you the synonym. If I reverse the pattern, so obviously the next variety is they ask you the opposites. If I ask you what do you mean by euphoria, have you heard this word before, euphoria? Euphoria means what? I'm sure you have heard there is a band with this name. There is an Indian musical band, Euphoria. Euphoria means बहुत वाली, when you feel like when you feel like singing आज में ऊपर आसमान नीचे, right? When you are this happy, it means euphoria. You are very happy, this is euphoria. So if they are asking you the opposite, tell me what should be the answer. Opposite, अगर आप बहुत खुश है तो opposite क्या होगा? बहुत दुखी है. Which word here suggests you that it has a negative meaning? If I see the option B, jubilation, jubilant, jubilee has everything which is positive, right? So jubilation, jubilee, that is the celebration of something. So euphoria and jubilant has to be synonym. The question is antonym, opposite. It cannot be the answer. Gleeful जब आप होते हैं ना, तो it's like you cannot stop smiling. You are gleeful मतलब you are happy and you cannot stop smiling. Synonym, exhilarating performance है, something lively है, बहुत खुशी खुशी वाली है. So obviously the only option which is negative here, yes, Diksha and Ridhima, the answer is correct. That is dysphoria. That is option number D. Next, मुझे बताइएगा, this is a very easy one. You should know this answer to question number 38. इनफैक्ट इन केमिस्ट्री इफ यू हैव हर्ड, बहुत अर्ली स्टेजेस में, मतलब 6-7 स्टैंडर्ड की जो हमने थोड़ा बहुत साइंस पढ़ा था, आई एम श्योर वहां पे आपने वर्ड पढ़ा होगा एफोवेसेंट. एफोवेसेंट मींस व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय एफोवेसेंट? Effervescent is like, see, I'm sure you have used a cold drink bottle ever. So if I shake it and then I open it, what happens? It bubbles come out, right? So effervescent is somebody who is so bubbly in nature, full of life, full of energy, somebody who is, the merry maker, राइट. मेरी मेकर इज समबडी जो बड़ा है ना, कहीं भी जाते हो तो पार्टी की जान है, तो दैट इज अ मेरी मेकर. उसको ऑपोजिट कुछ लोग होते हैं जो हर जगह ना, दैट कैन, दोस पीपल कैन स्पॉइल एवरीथिंग. मजा किरकिरा करने वाले लोग, उनका वेट ब्लैंकेट बोलते हैं. wet, blanket का opposite merry maker, यहाँ पे है word effervescent, lively उसका synonym होगा, bubbling उसका synonym होगा, scintillating performance positive word होता है, synonym होगा. So the answer has to be option C here. Question 38. Effervescent का जो आंसर होता है यहाँ पे ऑपोजिट होता है, दैट हैज टू बी ऑप्शन सी, दैट इज सलिन. मतलब somebody who is not feeling very good, right? थोड़ा लो लो करके साउंड, वैसा वाला. So again, see, I cannot take all the words here. What I'm trying to give you is a broader picture, what you should prepare. So if you ask me, there are many words, how should we prepare? I'll just say a simple thing. Uh, you know, solve quiz on words as many as you can. जितनी हो सके उतनी quiz solve करिए, and then it will help you seriously, right? The next variety of question which they ask you on the basis of vocabulary is this. That is what they ask you: identify the word which is correctly spelled here. जिसकी spelling सही है वो बताइए. तो there are 5 questions here. I think I should give you a challenge right now. The challenge is, I give you exactly 1 minute, and then you write the answers in the chat box. If you wish, you can do that. 41 to 45. Go through every single word and then tell me what should be the correct spelling of the words written over here. Okay, your time starts now. You have 1 minute. After a minute, I'll ask you what should be the correct answer. Himadri, Ridhima, Shreya is saying 41st ka correct answer is D. Okay. 42nd ka B, simultaneous. Parliamentary. Okay. Tentative and surveillance. Okay, I believe I should start now. The first is drought, and that drought is सूखा जो पड़ता है, lack of rainfall. That is this drought. So yes, Shrey or Shreya. Okay, I cannot see. So the thing is, drought is that सूखा. इसका opposite क्या होगा? Can you tell me the opposite of the word drought? Drought का opposite क्या होगा? Drought is lack of rainfall or water. So obviously it has to be what? Flood. Drought का opposite flood. Drought का सही spelling obviously is there in the fourth option, DROUGH. Simultaneous has to be second one. Answer of 42nd is 2. Answer to 43rd is again 2. Parliamentary. Good. Answer to 44 tentative is again second. And answer to 45th surveillance has to be option C. Surveillance is option C. No Shreya, it cannot be option 2. It is 3. Now, if you ask me, that I usually get confused between A and E and I, where to place what. And Acha, I have a question for you. How many of you feel that you knew this spelling, but then when you looked at all the option, you got confused actually? Otherwise, you knew the spelling, but then पढ़ के confusion हो गया आपको कि अच्छा ये क्या होगा. This is a human tendency, I believe. अगर आपको ऐसे questions आते हैं जहाँ पे आपको सही spelling लिखना है, my suggestion would be, rather than looking at the options, all the option, do one thing: take a pencil, pen, whatever you have, and then just without looking at the option, write down the spelling. Believe me, the one which you write in one go without looking at the option is the correct one. Match it with the option and then you will have your आंसर. या निकिता, 41st का आंसर इज डी. बिल्कुल ठीक है, हमने उसके बाद भी बात किया है. 42nd साइमल्टेनियस, ऑप्शन 2. 43rd का स्पेलिंग जो सही है पार्लियामेंट्री, अगेन ऑप्शन 2. 44 टेंटेटिव, अगेन ऑप्शन 2. बट देन 45th has to be surveillance, option C, right? Now I move on to the next kind of a question. They're asking you the plural form here. Plural. right? I'm sure we all know this word serum. Serum हम सब समझते हैं, face serum, hair serum, there are many serum, right? Now this is a singular word, right? So tell me serum का plural क्या होगा? What should be the plural of the word serum? 46th का answer I'm asking you. What should be answer to question number 46th? Serum is singular, so its plural has to be yes, Nikita. If you're answering question number 46, then yes, serum is singular. Sera, S-E-R-A, is the plural of serum. Similarly, the word corpus, C-O-R-P-U-S, is singular. Its plural is 46th का B है, बिल्कुल ठीक जानकी, that's correct. And 46th का yes, 46th is B, great. 47 corpus is singular, its plural, yes, its plural has to be corpora. Option number 4, C-O-R-P-O-R-A. Corpus का plural is corpora, C-O-R-P-O-R-A, right? Go through every question. I think there is a lag, and that's why there is thoda sa gap ho raha hai between the time I answer and then you respond. So let's do it this way. I give you 30 seconds, solve every question, and then I'll start again. Solve 47, 48, 49, and 50th. 47th, Janki is saying D. It's correct. Corpus is singular. Corpora is the plural of corpus. Good. 48th, genus is singular. Its plural is genera, Genera. Janki, you are correct. Answer is third one. That is option C. Yes. The next two are super easy. I'm sure you know index is singular, so the plural has to be 49th का answer बताइए. The plural of index is indices, and matrix का it is matrices. So the point is, when you read words, when you go for vocabulary, what you should do is the meaning, the spelling, if it's a noun, singular or its plural form. You should go all the four aspects of a word, and that's how you prepare for what? Yes, indices, Shreya is correct. Matrix का matrices हो जाएगा, ये correct. ठीक है. Now I move on to different variety of question, that is the reasoning based questions. In fact, I believe I should first talk about these questions. These are known as para-jumble, right? I have moved on to the different variety. They are known as para-jumble, right? So I first give you the overview that if ever you get a para-jumble in the question, from where should you start? From where should you, um, start solving it? What should be the strategy is what I am trying to say. So if there is a para jumble, first tell me that if you know what is para jumble, I'll answer it for you. If you know, that's great. Otherwise, just imagine some writer has written a paragraph. What these people they do is they break that paragraph into a few statements, and then they jumble it, उसको ऊपर नीचे कर देंगे, sequence उसका break कर देंगे, and then they ask you again to arrange it in a logical sequence or order. So that is what is known as parajumble. If you can see on the screen, there is a parajumble over there, right? यहाँ पे क्या करना है? There are A, B, C, D, E, F. 6 statements here. Out of these 6 statements, you're supposed to arrange them so that it makes sense to one, right? So I believe it is, yes, clearly visible to you all. Read the options and tell me, if you get a para jumble, what will you do first? What will you do? Will you directly start reading the statements, or will you first read the options? Tell me, what will you do? What should be done first? Should we go through the options first or directly start reading the statements? Yes, Himadri. Why? Because see, we can clearly see, if you can see the options here, there are two options which starts with option with the statement D, and there are two options which start with statement F, right? So yes, we can clearly see या तो D से start हो रहा है या F से हो रहा है. So why would I waste my time reading all these statements, right? I'll first read D and F. Now D and F मैंने पढ़ भी लिया, तो the next thing which I should do is ask myself which makes a better opening statement. Now, when I say opening statement or introductory statement, it means what out of the two behaves as if, see, this is what we are going to do in the paragraph, right? If you remember the passage one which we solved today, आज जो हमने solve किया first वाला, उसमें भी did you note that the author in the first three lines told it clearly that, see, this is what we are going to do. We are going to differentiate between the two types of languages, scientific and literary language. Every good author will do that. In the first few lines only, he'll tell you that, see, this passage is about this, right? And that's why when we read what should be done, I should ask myself what makes a better opening statement. Now, let's read statement F first and then decide, can the paragraph start with statement F? If I start, it says that the umpire's main duties are to judge. Now, I have a question for you all. Can you tell me, when do we use article the and when do we use article a? Okay, I ask you using a statement now. DEBFAC is okay. This is the answer. I'll just discuss it with you and then you tell me. Let everybody answer it simultaneously. क्या होगा? I'm just trying to set the concept that if you get these questions, what should be done. So the first thing is look for the article hint. Article का hint क्या है? I give you one example. The example says that, मैं अगर ऐसा कहती हूँ, the phone I lost yesterday, I have a phone. Is this statement correct? The phone I lost yesterday, I have a phone. Can I say this is a correct statement? Is it correct? The phone I lost yesterday, I have a phone. I'm sure you get my point that no, it's not. And what if it is not correct? What's wrong with this statement is, I first have to tell you that, see, I have a phone. First, I need to tell you, see, I have a phone, I have some phone, I have a phone with me, and this is the phone which I lost. ये वही फोन है जो मैंने पहले घुमा दिया था. तो I cannot start, directly addressing something which I have never talked before. यहाँ पे अगर मैं पढ़ती हूँ तो F वाला जो स्टेटमेंट है वो द से स्टार्ट हो रहा है. द अंपायर मतलब मैंने इन अंपायर की पहले कहीं बात की है, बट अभी तो मैंने नहीं की है, इसीलिए एफ से स्टार्ट नहीं हो सकता. मतलब अभी ये तो क्लियर है कि कहाँ से स्टार्ट होता है. इट हैज टू स्टार्ट विद ऑप्शन डी. डी कहता है essential officials in the field are two umpires who control the field. Now if D is the perfect opening statement, then I have two choices, A and C. A says D should be followed by C and C says D should be followed by E. So I'll just read C and E. If I read E, if I first read C option, तो वो क्या हो जाता है? देखिए D हुआ क्या? Essential officials in the field are two umpires who control the field. In the early 90s, a third umpire was introduced for test matches. Does it go in the flow? Yes, it does. It makes a good point that, see, और field में there are two people who are important. क्रिकेट की बात हो रही है, अंपायर कहते हैं उन्हें हम. और 90s में थर्ड अंपायर was introduced. So it makes a good flow. तो फिर काम करते हैं. अभी I check, can A be the answer? So D के बाद C is going well. Now I read option B. Option B कहता है after each over they swap the position. Who are they here? ये दे किसके लिए आया है यहाँ पे? आई एम श्योर यू अंडरस्टैंड. ये दे तो उन दो अंपायर के लिए आ रहा है ना, जो कि चेंज करेंगे अपनी पोजीशन. तो क्या ये सी के बाद बी जम रहा है? यहाँ पे सी पे हमने बात किया था थर्ड अंपायर. And just after third umpire, we are saying they swap the position. Who are they? They are two. There must be two people to swap a position. So it has to be wrong. ये गलत है. तो फिर मैं क्या करूंगी? I'll not further pursue this option. I'll just drop it. मैं दूसरे ऑप्शन पे आती हूँ. दूसरा ऑप्शन है यहाँ पे सी. सी कहता है essential officials in the field are to umpire who control the field. And then E. E कहता है अब out of the two, one stands at the bowler's end and the other one here, and then they swap the position. Now see, this is the sequence which is logically being followed here. So the answer has to be yes, you people are correct. It has to be C. That's great. Now point is, what should I do when the passages come? I should look for what makes a good opening statement. Second, the hint of articles कि पहले the वाला होना चाहिए. Though exceptions can be there, there are exceptions, but yeah, broadly पहले a n वाला noun जो है वो introduce होगा, फिर the वाला introduce होगा, right? Because the makes things specific और जो है उसको specific नहीं बनाता. The third thing is noun pronoun link. नाउन प्रोनाउन लिंक, ये वाला जैसे इसका एक एग्जांपल देते हैं. मैंने कहा ही इज अ वेरी नाइस प्लेयर, इज अ वेरी नाइस प्लेयर. आई मेट सौरभ yesterday. Does it make sense? He is a nice player. I met Dhoni yesterday. Does it make sense? I'm sure it doesn't, because I need to introduce the word first. See that he here is for whom. I met him. Who him? Who is the him here? I need to say that I met Dhoni yesterday. He is a nice person, right? And that's why pehle I'll say Dhoni, and then I can use the pronoun for Dhoni. So make sure that just say यहाँ पे in this case what happened, the example which we just solved, यहाँ पे ना in option B it is they. Now ask yourself, who is they here for? किसके लिए आया? तो it is here for what? The two umpire. And that's how you can relate ki okay, I need to first tell them that it is for umpire, and then I can use they for them. So this is what we call as noun pronoun link, which we can use to solve these questions, right? Okay. Apart from that, they ask you these questions also. If you can read, like, see, first read. Acha, there is this. I won't say a warning, but yes, there's something which you should follow and remember. Read the questions carefully. What you do is, usually what we do is, आदत हो जाती है सॉल्व करते हुए, तो हम डायरेक्टली क्वेश्चन देखते हैं, अच्छा ऑप्शन में ये लिखा है कॉज इफेक्ट वाला ये ऑप्शन है, एंड देन वी स्टार्ट सॉल्विंग. दैट्स really not a good idea. They can change the option. देखो जैसे यहाँ पे if you can see, हमारे दिमाग में ना यूजुअली बाय डिफॉल्ट ये सेट होता है कि ऑप्शन ए क्या कहता है, that if one follows and two doesn't, but then what if they change the option and they say if two follows and a doesn't. इसलिए please, this is not killing of time. Don't save your time this way that you do not read the questions. No, read the question. अब यहाँ पे उसने चार ऑप्शन दिए, पढ़िए उसको. पहला कहता है if one is the cause and two is the effect. दूसरा कहता है if two is the cause and one is the effect. तीसरा कहता है वन एंड टू दोनों ही स्टेटमेंट्स इफेक्ट्स हैं किसी चीज के, बट द कॉजेज आर डिफरेंट. फोर्थ कहता है वन एंड टू आर द इफेक्ट्स ऑफ सम कॉमन कॉज. आई एम श्योर बहुत लोगों को अभी कंफ्यूजन हो रहा होगा ये क्या चल रहा है, तो लेट्स टेक एन एग्जाम्पल, उससे क्लियर करते हैं. ये स्टेटमेंट पढ़िएगा, थर्ड वन. थर्ड जो क्वेश्चन है इसको पढ़िए एक बार. द टू स्टेटमेंट्स व्हिच आर रिटन ओवर हियर. Okay, I read it for you. A large number of people living in the low-lying areas have been evacuated during the last few days to safer places. I'm sure इसका आप मीनिंग समझे that low-lying areas में there was an evacuation drill गवर्नमेंट ने किया. बहुत सारे लोग वर stranded there, वहाँ फंस गए थे, उनको evacuate करके सही जगह पे ले जाया गया. Tell me, अगर ये हुआ है तो ये इफेक्ट है या ये कॉज है? आई एम श्योर कॉज इफेक्ट आप समझते हैं. कॉज इफेक्ट मतलब लेट्स से फॉर एन एग्जांपल, गल्फ कंट्रीज में लेट्स से अगर वॉर स्टार्ट हो जाता है, राइट, तो वर्ल्ड वाइड पेट्रोलियम या क्रूड ऑयल के प्राइस बढ़ गए, तो क्रूड ऑयल के प्राइस बढ़ना इफेक्ट है या कॉज है? यू आंसर में दिस, देन आई मूव अहेड। बताइए, अगर गल्फ कंट्री में वॉर हो गया है जिसके कारण क्रूड ऑयल के प्राइस बढ़ गए, तो क्रूड ऑयल के प्राइस बढ़ना, इज इट अ कॉज और इज इट एन इफेक्ट? आई एम लुकिंग एट द चैट बॉक्स। Once I receive the answer, I'll move ahead. I want the answer first. Great. Ridhima, it is an effect. Effect क्या है कि प्राइस बढ़ गया. Cause क्या है? The war, right? तो आपको बस यही वाला रिलेशन यू आर सपोज टू फाइंड आउट हियर कि यहाँ पे वो कौन सा रिलेशन है. तो नाउ यू टेल मी, अब बताइए हिमाद्री, अब बताइए, large number of people have been evacuated in the last few days, right, to safer places. ये cause है या effect है? Is it a cause or is it an effect? लोगों को बचाया गया है, सुरक्षित स्थान पे ले जाया गया है. This is a cause or an effect? Great. This is an effect. Good. Now read the second statement. Government has rushed in relief supplies to the people living in the affected areas. ये भी क्या है? Effect है. Good. If 1 and 2 both are effects, it means what? I have two options now. C or D. C says that both 1 and 2 are effects, but the causes are independent, two different causes. The D says that 1 and 2 both are effects, but then they have a common cause. Now you tell me, if people have been evacuated और रिलीफ सप्लाईज वहीं पे भेजी गई है अफेक्टेड एरिया में, तो क्या ये दोनों इफेक्ट का कॉज रीजन एक है या अलग अलग है? What do you feel? The two actions, do they have a same similar cause? Exactly, yes. The cause is same and I can say it can be anything, flood, tsunami or whatever, but then it is one cause, kahin pe baad aa gaya hai, and that's why the two things have been done. So obviously the answer has to be option D. I'm sure you got my point. समझ में आया हमने क्या बात किया, right? This way you are supposed to solve these questions. I'll take one more type, and that is this. Now again read the question carefully first. Each of these questions has a statement followed by two conclusion 1 and 2. Consider the statement and the conclusion. And now you are supposed to give the answer. Answers के लिए option है A, B, C, D. One says if conclusion 1 follows, the other one says if conclusion 2 follows. C says neither 1 nor 2, and D says if both 1 and 2 follows. Now, how should we approach these questions? उसको समझना है. Read the third statement here. The third statement here says this world is neither good nor evil. थोड़ा philosophical in nature है, तो थोड़ा ध्यान से समझिएगा. This world is neither good nor evil. Now each man creates a world for himself. So there is this statement कि this world it's neutral basically, ठीक है, ये बिल्कुल neutral है, but then it depends on the person how he does things which makes the world good or bad for the person. This is what they are trying to say. तो अगर किसी ने ये कहा है कि दुनिया ना अच्छी है ना बुरी है, हर व्यक्ति अपनी दुनिया अपने लिए दुनिया खुद बनाता है, तो कैन आई कॉन्क्लूड, इतना सुन के क्या मैं ये अज्यूम कर सकती हूँ, मैं मन से मान लूं that some people find this world quite good? Can I say that? हाँ, because see, second part says that each man creates a world for himself. मतलब it depends on you. आप अपने लिए दुनिया कैसे बनाते हैं उस पर डिपेंड करता है, एंड दैट्स व्हाई ऑब्वियसली कुछ लोगों के लिए द वर्ल्ड इज क्वाइट गुड और कुछ लोगों के लिए इट इज क्वाइट बैड, एंड दैट्स व्हाई आंसर हैज टू बी व्हाट? ओनली वन फॉलोज, ओनली टू फॉलोज, नीदर और बोथ. Good. So it has to be option number D. Both conclusion 1 and 2 follows. Right? अच्छा, second is a good one. थोड़ा सा quite you need to use थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा your part of your brain. तो इसको पढ़िए एक बार. India's economy is dependent mainly on forest. किसी ने ये बोला. अच्छा, जैसे आज I'm sure you know that budget has been presented in the parliament. तो let's say अगर ऐसा वहाँ कहा गया कि India's economy is dependent mainly on forest, right? तो क्या इससे मैं ये कंक्लूड मन से करूं, मतलब दिस इज समथिंग वो एक्सप्लिसिट इम्प्लिसिट वाला केस है. दे हैव नॉट एक्सप्लिसिटली सेड समथिंग, तो मुझे इम्प्लिसिट मीनिंग क्या है वो निकालना है. तो अगर उन्होंने बोला इंडिया की इकोनॉमी मेनली फॉरेस्ट पे डिपेंड करती है, नहीं, यहाँ पर रिद्धिमा निकिता आई थिंक थोड़ा सा कहीं कंफ्यूजन हो रहा है. इसके लिए एक चीज बोलती हूँ. आई डू नॉट गिव यू द आंसर डायरेक्टली, आई जस्ट गिव यू अ हिंट. हिंट को कैच करके फिर से एक बार गिव इट अ थॉट अगेन. If there are extreme words there, extreme means what? Extreme matlab always, never, all, every, each, only. प्लीज इन वर्ड्स पे बहुत ध्यान देना क्योंकि यही वर्ड्स आपका आंसर बदल देता है. उसने कहा कि मेनली फॉरेस्ट पे डिपेंड करती है. डज इट मीन कि दूसरे और फैक्टर्स नहीं है जिस पे इंडियन इकोनॉमी डिपेंड करती है? टेल मी. If they say it mainly depends on forest, does it mean कि दूसरी चीज पे नहीं कर सकती? You answer me first, then I'll move ahead. My question is, if they say it mainly depends on forest, does it mean that it doesn't depend on anything else apart from the forest? Very good. It doesn't. Now, if I now read the statement, it says trees should be preserved to improve the Indian economy. So yes, if they are saying, you see, if we are dependent on something, that thing has to be preserved. So this makes a logical one, right? I'm sure nobody has any doubt when it comes to option A. Now see, read the second one. Ridhima, second में ना उसने बोला India wants only maintenance of forest to improve the economic condition. See, if the finance minister says that, see, our economy depends on technology, mainly on technology, mainly on IT sector. Does it mean that we stop and we don't want the maintenance of other, other fields of economy or other sections of the or the sectors of economy? Does it mean that? No, it doesn't. दो मेन पार्ट फॉरेस्ट का है, बट इट डजंट मीन कि इंडिया यही चाहता है कि सिर्फ हम फॉरेस्ट को ही जो है ना उसको ही देखें. सो दिस वर्ड ओनली हियर इज मेकिंग अ एक्सट्रीम स्टेटमेंट कि हमें सिर्फ और सिर्फ हम चाहते हैं हम फॉरेस्ट को इम्प्रूव करें, बाकी को नहीं करें. ऐसा कहाँ से वी कैन फिगर इट आउट इफ द स्टेटमेंट सिंपली सेज कि मेनली फॉरेस्ट पे करती है. सो द सेकेंड वन इज एन एक्सट्रीम वन, एंड एक्सट्रीम आंसर्स यूजुअली आर नॉट द गुड आंसर्स. सो आपका आंसर होता है जहां पे से वन फॉलो होता है. सो इट हैज टू बी व्हाट? ऑप्शन नंबर ए, इफ ओनली कंक्लूजन वन follows. Okay. Okay, so I believe you have got an overview. एक और क्वेश्चन करते हैं, राइट? दिस इज थोड़ा सा डिफरेंट वन. आई बिलीव इसको कर लेना चाहिए. सो अभी व्हाट वी डिड वाज अ कंक्लूजन वाला क्वेश्चन जिसमें देयर वाज स्टेटमेंट एंड देन वी नीड टू फिगर इट आउट कि अच्छा किसी ने ऐसा बोला है तो कैन वी कंक्लूड दिस. अभी इसका थोड़ा उल्टा है. उल्टा है मतलब आई एम श्योर यू हैव enjoyed a debate somewhere sometime और group discussion, ऐसे कुछ GDs या debate आपने किए होंगे. तो लेट्स से एक क्वेश्चन है दैट शुड यूथनेशिया बी लीगलाइज्ड इन इंडिया, राइट? अब उसके लिए शुड है, शुड इट बी लीगलाइज्ड, तो ऑब्वियसली देयर विल बी आर्ग्यूमेंट्स. आर्ग्यूमेंट्स मींस व्हाट? कि इफ आई टेक अ स्टैंड कि हाँ लीगलाइज करना चाहिए, तो आई नीड टू गिव अ रीजन और एन एग्जांपल कि व्हाई डू आई थिंक सो. इफ आई से नो इट शुड नॉट बी डन, तो फिर आई अगेन नीड टू गिव सम एग्जांपल कि क्यों ऐसा. तो अभी पता है, देखिए यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है इन द क्वेश्चन. They have given you a statement and then they have given you two arguments. Now you are supposed to choose which argument is strong and which is not strong. Here please make sure your stand yes or no. doesn't make an argument strong. I repeat my words. आप फेवर में है या आप अगेंस्ट में है किसी टॉपिक के, ये चीज जो है ना वो आपका आर्ग्यूमेंट स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं करती. व्हाट मेक्स योर आर्ग्यूमेंट स्ट्रॉन्ग इज कि आपने अगर जो स्टैंड लिया है, अगर मैं फेवर में हूं तो मैं जो रीजन दे रही हूँ कि व्हाई एम आई इन फेवर ऑफ दिस टॉपिक, दैट मेक्स माई आर्ग्यूमेंट स्ट्रॉन्ग, राइट. सो प्लीज कभी भी आप ये आंसर को अगर हम अटेम्प्ट करें तो यस नो के बेसिस पे यू शुड नॉट बी टेकिंग योर डिसीजन. रादर यस के पीछे उसने रीजन क्या बोला है उसको पढ़ के आस्क योरसेल्फ, डज इट साउंड लॉजिकल, डज इट साउंड टू द पॉइंट. इफ यस तो वो स्ट्रॉन्ग है, अदरवाइज वो नहीं है, राइट. नाउ इसका एक एग्जाम्पल लेते हैं. उसने कहा है, हैज द मेडिकल साइंस रियली लेंथन द स्पैन ऑफ लाइफ. क्या सच में मेडिकल साइंस से हमारा जो लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी है वो बढ़ गया है क्या? तो लेट्स से somebody says yes, बढ़ गया है. न्यू ड्रग्स हैव बीन एबल टू कॉम्बैट द डिसीजेस एंड इंक्रीज द स्पैन ऑफ लाइफ. किसी ने बोला हाँ, इंसानों का लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी बढ़ गया है बिकॉज वी हैव क्रिएटेड ड्रग्स जो डिसीजेस को कॉम्बैट करती है और लाइफ बढ़ा देती है. यह स्ट्रॉन्ग नजर आता है या वीक नजर आता है? व्हाट डू यू फील? हाउ डज इट साउंड? ये टू द पॉइंट है? क्या स्पैन ऑफ लाइफ के बारे में बात कर रहा है? हाँ कर रहा है. रीजन जो दिया है आपको ठीक लगता है क्या कि हमने ऐसी ड्रग्स बना ली हैं? इफ यू फाइंड इट इज रेलिवेंट, लॉजिकल, टू द पॉइंट, तो आप इसको स्ट्रॉन्ग बोलेंगे. तो सुन के बताइए, व्हाट डू यू फील? फर्स्ट आर्ग्यूमेंट स्ट्रॉन्ग है क्या? आई एम वेटिंग फॉर योर आंसर. गुड. यस हिमांशु, इट मेक्स अ स्ट्रॉन्ग स्टेटमेंट, राइट. अब मैं पढ़ती हूँ नो को. अच्छा, एक और चीज याद रखना, कभी भी है ना दोनों स्टेटमेंट को एक दूसरे से रिलेट मत करिएगा, अदरवाइज यू विल गेट कंफ्यूज्ड. मतलब आपने बोला अच्छा यस, तो अभी मैंने ये बोला नो में ऑपोजिट है, तो फिर एक बार में तो एक ही चीज सही होगी. आई अग्री टू दैट, पर एक बार ऑप्शंस पढ़िए. क्या उसने ये ऑप्शन दिया है, इफ वन इज स्ट्रॉन्ग टू कैन नॉट बी, and if two is strong one cannot be. If they tell you to relate the two statements then only relate it, otherwise आप relate नहीं करेंगे. आप दोनों statements को अपना है ना इंडिविजुअली अप्रोच करेंगे, एक को अलग पढ़ेंगे दूसरे को अलग पढ़ेंगे, दोनों को लिंक करने की कोशिश आप नहीं करेंगे. नहीं तो आप सही करते हुए भी अपना आंसर गलत ले आएंगे, राइट. तो अभी मैंने वन पढ़ा, वन मुझे स्ट्रॉन्ग लगता है, अब मैं वन को भूल जाऊंगी. लेट्स फॉरगेट कि वन में क्या बात हो गया. नाउ जस्ट फोकस ऑन दी सेकेंड वन. सेकेंड कहता है नो, because the eternal truth that everybody's days are numbered cannot be denied. लिख के आए हैं हम, लिखवा के आए हैं, ये इतने ही दिन जिएगा वो तो नहीं जिएगा, और उससे ऊपर कुछ नहीं हो सकता. हाउ डज इट साउंड टू यू? टू द पॉइंट है, लॉजिकल है, स्ट्रॉन्ग है या नहीं है? आप कहते हो कि कोई कुछ नहीं कर सकता, हम सबका जीवन जो है ऊपर वाले ने लिख के भेजा है, ऊपर वाले के आगे किसी की नहीं चलने वाली. हाउ डज इट साउंड टू यू? आई एम वेटिंग फॉर योर आंसर. Excuse me. How does it sound to you? I have not received any answer yet. Great. Yes, Lakshmi. It doesn't sound logical to the point, right? मतलब बिल्कुल नहीं. ऐसे कैसे आप मतलब they are talking about medical science and you are talking about the philosophy that you cannot live beyond what God wants you to be. ऐसा नहीं होता है, and obviously that's why B doesn't make a strong statement. So your answer has to be option A here. That is yes, only one is strong, right? So this is the way we solve these questions. I'm sure you have got an overview and the approach to an extent that how should these questions be approached, right? So that was all from my side for today's session. All the very best. Keep practicing. Practice is the key to get a good score when it comes to English or verbal ability, what we call, right? So keep practicing. Make sure you solve 2 to 3 questions of every variety every day till your exam, and then I hope that you get a good score, right? So that was all. Thank you so much for joining.